and welcome to another segment of Intersections, Policy, Program, and Practice Exchange. My name is Elisa William, and today I have the pleasure to be talking to Executive Director of Mental Health America Dutchess, Andrew O'Grady. I'm Professor of Psychology and Director of the Center of Aging and Disability Policy at Mount St. Mary College and co-founder of NOAR, the National Organization of Adult Addiction and Recovery, Dr. Larry Force. And our special guest today is Jerry Cooney, who's going to be on with us as we begin to talk about the voice of reason. Larry, you want to get us started?
I will. Alyssa, thank you, and thank you for moderating this and connecting all the dots here. And we are really glad to be here. And Jerry, we are so honored that you're able to join us today. Offline we had an exchange, and online let's have the same exchange. You truly are a star, and we're so glad that you are here with us. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Andrew for the introduction, and as we begin this exchange.
Thank you.
Great, Andrew.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Jerry last year. He came up because one of our board members had a connection, and anyway, Jerry came up and visited our outdoor golf tournament for our Mark halfway houses, and he was great, and we got to know each other a little bit. I was excited to meet him. I grew up in Catskill, New York, and I'm the same age as Mike Tyson, and so probably in the early 80s when Mike came to Catskill and started boxing, and he slowly became a popular guy in our town. Jerry was at the height of his business and doing his thing. So I got into boxing and I watched it and saw him on the Sunday and Saturday afternoon Wide World of Sports and stuff like that. And so it's great to have him here. And we're going to be talking about recovery, and we're going to be talking about addiction a little bit. And we had the last couple of weeks, we've had people on that have told their stories, and it's not just about telling the story, because many people may already know your story, Jerry, but it's about just getting the word out. And like I say, the more people have the courage to talk about what they've come through, the more there's always going to be one person that might grab onto that and make a positive step. And obviously, when somebody comes on that has a following or people know, it even has a bigger impact. So we're real happy you're here. And I just wanted to start off with, you grew up in, I think, Jersey or Long Island. Where Jersey?
I did. I grew up in Long Island, New York. I was born in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I started hanging around with a bad crowd when I was 2. They moved me out to Long Island. And I grew up there for a long, long time. And I was fortunate to meet a beautiful woman who turned out to be my wife here in Jersey. And we've been here for 23 years now. And it's been a great experience. And
that's great. Your father, I read some stuff, and your dad was an alcoholic, and you said dysfunction breeds dysfunction sometimes. And that must have not been an easy thing for you, dealing with that.
No, it wasn't easy for me. When I was a little kid, I learned a lot of negative, I was no good, a failure, not going to amount to anything, things to survive. Like my father grew up in Canada. He learned how to survive. He didn't learn how to live. And he came here to America and he did the same thing. He had 6 children, like he grew up in a family of 6. And he didn't really get a chance to, teach us about how to live life and how to make plans, how to figure things out. And so when I was 12, I started to pick up a drink. First time I had a drink was 12. And I remember that night I got so sick to my stomach. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to do this again. But the next day when I woke up, I forgot about that part. And I remembered about how I felt at peace with the world. I felt attractive. I fit in. People liked me. I was funny. And that was what I remembered. And unfortunately, that helped me to drink for a lot of times, a lot of years, and made a lot of mistakes. And we're here today. But it's great to be with you. And I'm so excited that I am just celebrated last April 32 years in this program of not having a drink or taking a drug and figuring out how to live life and to raise a great family and to be charitable and helpful and loving and caring and be intimate with my wife and the people, my friendships around me, that I was able to learn by putting down that stuff.
That's fabulous.
You had asked us how we got started. And how we got started is really based upon a long-term friendship. Andrew and I have known each other for a long time. In another project that I'm involved in, because of COVID, we had all this information and content knowledge, but we had no way to assemble people. So I had talked with Alyssa about being involved in this other project. The platform worked. We captured the discussion or exchange on video. We send it out through our mailing list. And what we had hoped with local presence has now turned into a statewide and national presence. And that was the idea, to be able to elevate this voice of, addiction and recovery. One of the things that happened to me in the process of having a conversation, I started talking to somebody about addiction being a lonely journey, of isolation, especially now with COVID and recovery. And he said, no, addiction is lonely, but recovery is not lonely, because of however you can connect to people, even if it's on a virtual platform, there is this connection. And our intent at the beginning was to be able to elevate this discussion about addiction, recovery, and mental wellness. And as you get to know Andrew, and as you've gotten to know Andrew, you realize that he is a strong advocate of taking down the silos, and not treating people, individually by diagnosis, but by treating the whole person. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I mean, you sit there today, proud, accomplished, but you reference the 32 years, your experiences, your strength, your hope. But did you ever think, because there are people that are going to be watching this that feel as though they have no chance, they have no choice. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about that defining moment or that defining period of time that just took you down a different path.
Obviously it was a lot of things that went on in my life for this to happen. And I also, credit to a God of my understanding. And, I remember I was out I had this beautiful home in the Hamptons on the beach, and woke up at 20 minutes to 11 by myself in the morning, hungover, thinking, what happened to me? I was a world ranked #1 in the world. I was one of the best heavyweights back in my era. And I was drinking, not taking care of myself. And I decided to quit that day. And I went about my day and went on my day. I'm not going to drink anymore. And the next morning I woke up again at 20 minutes to 11 in the morning, hungover. And that scared me that moment. And I thought to myself, please, God, you got to help me now. And it wasn't one of those get out of jail free cards. It was for real. And the desire to drink went away. I turned on the television. It happened to be Alcohol Awareness Week in the Hamptons. Unbelievable. And there's a guy by the name of George Benedict was talking about the addiction. And I called him, 288-112. I took a ride there and saw him. And he told me, you don't have to stay here. He said, if you can't go to meetings, go outside and try and get recovery. And if you can't, I'll always have a place for you. I said, thank you. But I wouldn't plan on staying. He had to sleep in a room with 5 or 6 other men. It was like, I was so scatterbrained. And so I started going to meetings, and I felt like I got this right away. And someone told me during that sober period that you got to be careful. You're going to drink again. I said, are you kidding me? I'm never going to do it again. It was almost to the day, 5 months. I guess I had enough, being without some type of numbing thing. And I picked up again. And that was the beginning of the end, because 2 months later, I got back into putting the drink down and getting my life back on track. And it's been a sail, not been easy, but it's been great.
It is a great thing when you're sober and you're able to actually experience everything in life, and all the sensories are working, right? And yeah, it's nice, right? Make relations with people.
It's not that, but it's like, you become available. And when I came around here, I was attracted to a certain person. They were pretty, they dressed nice, they looked good. But when the dust settled, they were crazy people, because I was thinking crazy. And as I got into start to learn and understand myself, clean myself up from alcohol and any kind of substance abuse, I start to learn more and grow better and hang around with different people, more interesting people, more challenging people. And then that's when I was able to, meet my wife after I had a long time in sobriety. And that's what this promises us. Put it down. I used to tell these new kids that, listen, spend a half an hour and write down what it was like the last 3 times you went out on one piece of paper from beginning to end. And at the end of every story, if it doesn't work anymore, it's over. You know, the cucumber has become a pickle. It's never going to become a cucumber again. You got to get up to the bat at Yankee Stadium and take a shot. And that's been my experience. It takes work. It's not easy. It's hard work to look inside yourself. I remember when I first came around this room, I had seen a therapist, and he said, when you see your eyes, when you close your eyes, what do you see? I told him, I see a big black hole. And you know what he told me? He said, good. Now you got to start going in that hole. And I said, what? I'm not going in that hole. But I've been going in the hole ever since. And it's been the greatest experience of my life.
I have to tell you, that statement is the title of a book, You Become Available. I mean, I mean, that really crystallizes part of what we're hoping that people walk away with, that you don't have to do this alone. And it is a new life. It's a new way of doing business. But as you say, I mean, it's work. I mean, one of the things that we know in working in the field of addictions and recovery is that relapse is very much a part of the recovery process. And here you are making this commitment, and then 5 months later, you're out. And then you come back, but you come back stronger. And I think that that is really a testimony to the power of recovery. But the clear thing that I'm getting is the fact that even under these times of COVID and quarantine and the mixed messages where anxiety is high, and I think the biggest mixed message is this: in New York City, the schools are closed, but the gyms are open. I mean, it's such a, you know, now the schools opened yesterday to see what happens. There's such an increase of anxiety. And from our perspective, we also know there's an increase in substance abuse during this time. And you don't have to do that because of the fact that there is somebody, whether it be that person in Long Island that will forever be part of your story, or the other people that you've met along this path. But this idea of you becoming available, I mean, I think that really captures it.
Listen, when I was new, I had a friend of mine back in my fighting days, had a bodyguard. One of my bodyguards grew up in Long Island. He took me to a detox center. And there was 80 people there that day. I remember, all very disheveled. And I thought to myself, wow, look at these people, these poor people. And he said to them, most of you are not going to make it by this time next year. And I thought to myself, Jack, why would you say that? So I waited after the meeting and I said, hey, Jack, why would you tell these poor people that? Do you know what he told me? Because it's the truth. And I thought to myself in that moment, that chair is my chair. I'm keeping my butt in that chair. I don't want to become one of those people. And unfortunately, there is a lot of recidivism. We go back out and turn around again. But, you know, we pray and we try and give them the hope and help them to change. I work with orphan kids, and the kids are 14, 15, 16, 17. You know, I pray I give them something that is going to help them change the course of their lives. You know, bringing them pizza on a Saturday is a great gift. Maybe they'll pass that on forward to somebody else. Teaching them how to take care of themselves, that's a gift. Those things, we have to show love and caring for people. And that's been my experience. Listen, it's a lonely, scary world being out there by ourselves, especially with not the greatest of upbringing. We got to find a way. And
well, you're certainly helping people to do that. I mean, I believe a part of a successful recovery and it's part of the AA meeting is that you help other people. So whether you're a sponsor on that level, or whether you're just helping the guy next to you that's new, that sits down next to you, or on a bigger scale like yours, and you know, you still do your announcer stuff and you have your jobs here and there and you're doing, but I think a lot of your time, if I understand correctly, is spent doing things like this, trying to help other people. You have the FIST program, I believe it's called. Are you still doing that?
no, that's been shut down, but it's great what you're saying to me.
But you're doing all these things that are helping other people, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, you know what? When I was a kid, there was no one there for me.
Right.
I had to find my own way. Yeah. And so if I can get the opportunity to help somebody, you know, here's my story. When I was 23, I just knocked out Ken Norton in the first round, 54 seconds in the first round. And I was getting a shot with Larry Holmes. I was going to fight for the heavyweight championship, where all the things I looked and worked for to this point. But I think fear from growing up in that household got to me, or I thought I deserved it or something. I started to drink and I started to mess around with some recreational drugs. And that night I realized, looking back, my career ended that night, little did I know. And what I really needed and wanted was someone to grab me by the arm and say, come on, Jerry, stick with me for me. Let's get this, let's keep this, let's go, let's take it to the end. And that's my prayer today, that I get a chance to do that with other young men or women and help them on their path.
Yeah.
You know, the Intersections program is grounded in myself and two of my friends, Jim Ball and Dave Brinkerhoff, about 5 years ago, started this national organization. It's a nonprofit. It's called the National Organizations of Adult Addictions and Recovery. It's to be present for adults who are on the recovery path. And it's based upon a theory called the theory of dimensionality. And what that really is a here and now theory. You know, the idea of we all have stories, we all have histories, but you're here now and let's move it forward. And one of the things that I do in my private practice, I refer more people to gymnasiums than I do to psychiatrists. And I'm not against psychiatry. I'm not against medication. But this whole idea of creating some type of movement, you know, that move a muscle, change a thought. The idea of getting out and being active. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you feel now sitting here looking back, retrospectively, how boxing and the ritual and the routine of boxing and exercise has helped support your recovery path.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. I wanted to say this, that my life was, I got up, I got dressed, I walked down the street, I fell in the hole. I banged my arm up, I went about my day. The next day I got up, I got dressed, I walked down the street, I fell in the hole, I hurt my leg. I got up, went about my day. The next day I got up, I got dressed, I walked down the street, and I fell in the hole again. So I had to find a different way to travel. I had to change, I had to ask for help. That was one of the first things I heard. I mean, can you help me? And I thought, you can ask me. So yeah, my life has been a great life. I never, had the confidence, self-confidence. I had the anger. When the bell rang, I had to fight. But up to that point, I really didn't have the skills. I wasn't taught the skills coming up, how to defend and take care of myself, that we have to feel along the way. We got to grow and bump into the wall, and then make the next decision. So listen, alcohol was an easy run for me. It took me out of the pain. I didn't feel. I remember a guy telling me one time, when you knock this guy out tonight, I was fighting Ron Lyle in the Coliseum. He said, I want you to reach out and touch the crowd. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That night, I go into the ring. I knock out Ron Lyle in the first round. I reached out and touched the crowd. It was such a gift for me that I never was aware of to feel. Or I have a great success and a big knockout. And then I would enjoy it for 10 minutes. And then I would put myself down because I had to get built up again. These are all negative, terrible things that don't support us. And these are things we need to talk about to change and to grow and to get help and to find peace and, follow your dream. I sat in the back of the room, never raised my hand, because at home when I raised my hand, I got my butt kicked. Yeah. So I never explored what I could have been. And all I had is one thing. I was getting out of high school. My friends were going to college. I had to become a fighter. I was scared to death. Being, in the ring in Madison Square Garden with Kenny Norton, or in Las Vegas in front of 32 or 35,000 people stadium, walking out of my dressing room, ill-equipped really. But we did it. We walked through it. And those are stories that, with the help of somebody cutting that negative, dysfunctional part down, we're going to have a lot of great things happen to people. That's what we need to keep working on.
Yeah. Did you? I just have to ask, Larry. I'm sorry. Did your father? He put you down. Didn't really know how to parent. He didn't learn how to parent growing up. And then when you started becoming successful, did that change at all?
My father. The last time my father got to see me was I came back from Europe. I had all knockouts, and They told me to stay in shape. The Russians were coming to the Garden. And I was drinking, and 6 days before the fight, they told me I was fighting a third-ranked Russian heavyweight champion. So I ran for 6 days. I ate good, and I went into the Garden. And my father was sick at that time. And I knocked a guy out in the first round. Thank God for that. I got invited to the finals of the Olympic trials in 1976. I turned it down because I didn't believe in myself. He asked me 3 times, you made it to the finals. That's where the top 8 guys go to Colorado Springs and fight it out. And I said, I'm sorry, my father's sick. I can't make it. I hated my father. I didn't believe in myself. That's the sin. I didn't take the shot. In my biggest night in the pros fighting Larry Holmes, I wasn't taking care of myself. So in case I failed, I had something to say, well, it was because of that. No, that's just wrong. These things I learned down. I wrote a book. I have a book out called Gentleman Jerry. It was the most freeing thing I've ever done. It took me 5 years. I appreciate myself. I was a great fighter. I was almost there. And I didn't learn that till I'm 60 years old, writing a book. Look at that handsome guy. Damn, what the hell, man? Damn. What?
It's a great book. It really is. You can get it on Amazon and at Barnes and Nobles. It's a great book. It's a great read.
Thank you.
You had an incredible history and an incredible run. And, if somebody, that's the thing about parenting. I mean, you just have to you have to instill positivity in your kids and believe in them, because if you just put them down, I mean, you described it so perfectly. I mean, it's a tape in your head. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. As much as you are knocking people out and feeling good about yourself, there's always that thing back there. So how do you, when you prove to the world that you're not good enough, what are you going to fall back on and say that you did? And that's probably why you're just like you said, you drank and you didn't train. You had 13 months, right? You had 13 months to get into the greatest shape of your life. And, and you still went 11 rounds with Larry Holmes, didn't you?
13 rounds. Watch yourself, bro. You better watch it, guy. 13 rounds. And I was ahead after 12. If it only went 12 rounds, I would have won.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So look,
yes.
Let me ask you something. There are people out there that are going to be watching this video cast. And some of those people are still dancing with their dance partner, the addiction. And they don't want to let it go because they don't feel as though that there's life or a happy, fun life or whatever. If, people talk about all the time, what are they going to do if they're not drinking, if they're not using, they don't feel as though they can give it up. What would you say to that? Because you're on the other side of it now, years into this recovery path. What would you say to that? I mean, when you were there, the hesitancy to let it go, to stop doing it, and now look at you looking back on this, what would you say to those people about the fact that they don't feel there's life beyond, the use of alcohol or the use of drugs?
Listen, life, I've traveled the world. I've done so many great things in my addiction that I never really appreciated the moments. And today, in my last 32 years, I do things, I make plans, I help people. There's a lot of great things that we need to understand. I didn't start feeling life until I put it all down and I had to deal with some of the fear and the confusion and the dysfunction of where I grew up from. I had to make peace with it and make amends. I made a lot of mistakes. I hurt a lot of people. I was in relationships I should have never been in, that I didn't know how to be intimate. I did not know how to love somebody. And when they told me they loved me, it was over because I couldn't deal with that until I stayed alone and spent the year alone and took myself to golf and tennis and sailing and do these different things where I learned a little bit about myself. Then I was attracted to that sound, not the dysfunctional sound that I'm going to have to fix you, you're going to try and fix me. But it was a sound that I can work with this person and we can figure out how great life is. And that is through no alcohol, no drugs, and growing up. Grow up. And that's, it's hard in the beginning. But, I'm so grateful for the people along the path that helped me. I remember one day when after 2 months, I was driving to my office. I told my friend, let's go to the Pancake House. I don't know why I said that. I pulled into the Pancake House, and that big guy, Jack Brunette from New York, the bodyguard, was there. He said, Jerry, sit down with me for a minute. And I sat down and he said, Jerry, I want to tell you, I have 3 years today. I've not taken a drink or a drug, and you never have to drink again. That was the last day I ever picked up a drink. April 21st, 1988.
Wow.
It changed my life. Why did that happen? I don't know. Why did I hear it from him? I don't know. Maybe because I was ready. Help me.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think we all can agree there are no coincidences.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, running into that guy wasn't by mistake.
it's amazing. He was there. He said, sit down with me. This was a tough guy. He used to put cigarettes out on the top of his hand. He was a badass. I'm not going to kick his ass, but you know, I didn't say nothing.
Yeah, funny. Jerry, this has been really, really great. And we really appreciate you coming. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, me
Without a
too.
doubt. I mean,
Hope so.
the topic, the theme, the overarching theme is the voice of reason. And you are definitely a representation of that. We are honored to have you here today.
Listen, it talks in my book about this process when I was a kid, my career, after my career, the fall, and how I picked myself up and found the strength with the help of other people in my higher power to move forward and to change the course of my life, become free, to be available for great opportunity. And listen, the sad part about this story is at the end we pass on. So the longer we put off, the less time we're going to have really to live. And so I recommend start now.
Love it. Love it. Powerful, powerful message.
Thank you.
So thank you. Alyssa?
Yeah, well, thank you, Gary. And thank you guys for joining us today. You've been listening to Intersections Policy Program and Practice Exchange. If you'd like to hear this program again, share it with friends, or even comment on it, log on to our digital resource center on our website, www.intersections-exchange.org. There you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, this has been an episode of Intersections, Policy Program and Practice Exchange.